House Republicans are pushing ahead with an impeachment inquiry into President Biden, despite finding no evidence of wrongdoing in nearly a year of investigations. The vote late yesterday falling along party lines.
There are no moderate Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives. There are proud MAGA and there are scared MAGA. That's it.
Well, it's official. Yesterday, House Republicans were able to successfully formalize the baseless impeachment inquiry into President Biden on a strict party vote, meaning every single Republican representative voted in favor of it, including those who live in swing Biden districts, including those who had publicly expressed misgivings with the effort in the past, and including those who publicly admitted that there is no direct evidence implicating President Biden to an impeachable offense. The resolution they voted for also does not require them to be transparent. It does not require them to hold a single public hearing, and yet they voted for it anyway. But before we unpack all that, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell. All right, folks, we have several clips to play. Let's jump into it. I'm sure you've heard, but yes, on a vote 221 to 212, Republicans were able to successfully pass the resolution formalizing the impeachment inquiry, which I'm told will enhance certain investigative powers, their ability to compel compliance with a subpoena, higher standing in court in case subpoenas are challenged, so the courts might be more deferential to them. It is kind of a big deal. Now, this is not the impeachment itself, but it does seem almost inevitable at this point that Republicans will seek to impeach the president after dragging it out for as long as possible, since, of course, there's an election coming up. Now, a couple of clips I want to play initially are from Republicans who had previously expressed misgivings with the impeachment effort, or had seemed to admit that there was no direct evidence of an impeachable offense. We're not going to play every single clip, otherwise we'd be here all day. I just picked two from two very different Republicans.
So what do you say to Speaker Johnson about the argument that he's making? He's basing it on the facts, and he's now supporting the very thing that he said was so terrible a few years ago.
Well, he was absolutely right in 2019. This is not the way to run a Congress. It's not the way to run a House. We should not be engaging in retribution politics and retribution impeachments.
That was Congressman Ken Buck, and what he said was true. I mean, impeachment shouldn't be a tool of partisan retribution. And yet, within 12 hours, Ken Buck voted in favor of that very same impeachment inquiry that he was just asked about. Now, I will say before I play the next clip, Ken Buck is not a moderate. Okay, he seems reasonable. He seems consistent, but he is a far-right Freedom Caucus member. He believes climate change is a hoax. He believes in a federal abortion ban without exceptions. He was a strident Trump supporter. And even with respect to this, when push comes to shove, just like when he backed Speaker Mike Johnson, Ken Buck will fall in line ultimately and back an impeachment inquiry that he thinks is petty and partisan. Don Bacon is somebody who nominally fits the description of a moderate, and he voted in favor of the impeachment inquiry as well. And he signaled that he would, despite, again, misgivings in the past, and even admitting publicly, contemporaneous with the vote, that he probably wouldn't. There probably wouldn't be evidence found of an impeachable offense. He admitted it. Those were his words. But this is what he had to say about his support for the impeachment inquiry.
Are you a yes on this vote for the inquiry, sir?
I am. I changed my position from the summer because the president was providing all the documents. But in the last 2 weeks, when he has said he was not going to provide documents, or the White House lawyers were saying this, because we had not passed a formal impeachment inquiry, well, I translate that to saying, well, we better pass an impeachment inquiry so we can get this information. So once they started stonewalling the information, we need to have an inquiry.
So again, that's an alleged moderate, Don Bacon. We'll get to the claim, the lie, that President Biden is stonewalling things. But Don Bacon's a moderate, and Don Bacon said that there probably wouldn't be evidence at the end of all of this, and he said this again within the past 48 hours, of an impeachable offense by the president, and yet he voted for the inquiry anyway, despite the fact that they've been looking into him for a year. Now, before I play my next clip, the Biden-Harris HQ Twitter page, they put together a thread. I don't even know if it's entirely comprehensive. There's probably names that they're missing. Republicans admitting out loud they have no direct evidence for impeachment, a thread. Chuck Grassley, a Republican senator, we'll get to him in a minute. I have no evidence. I can't say the president is guilty of anything. Representative Chuck Edwards, I acknowledge that there's no evidence of wrongdoing by President Biden. Michael McCall, we don't have the evidence. He said that publicly. We played that in a clip in a previous video. Representative John Curtis, no, I've not seen anything close to the bar for impeachment. Dave Joyce, you hear a lot of rumor and innuendo, but that's not fact to me. I've not seen any. I've not seen evidence to impeach Biden, said Dusty Johnson. Ken Buck, who we just talked about, doesn't exist, right? Lisa McClain, when she was asked by Maria Bartiromo on Fox News, what is the evidence? What policy is it that Biden changed in exchange for this alleged bribe? And she says, well, the short answer is no. We don't know what the policy is. We don't have any evidence, and so on and so forth. And yet they all voted in favor of it anyway. And so you might be thinking, wow, why would the moderates do that? Well, maybe Mark Elias, he's a voter, he's a lawyer who specializes in voting rights and voting lawsuits and things like that. I think he has a pretty good answer as to why every Republican voted in favor of this anyway, including those who said that it was nonsense to begin with.
There are no moderate Republicans. We need to just stop with the nonsense. There are no moderate Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives. There are proud MAGA and there are scared MAGA. That's it. 221 of them. Every single member of the Republican House, whether they were a proud MAGA or scared MAGA, just voted for a bogus, nonsensical impeachment motion to proceed because they pay fealty to Donald Trump. And it is a shameful moment in American history. It is a shameful moment for each one of these members, but it is an important moment that every American watching right now should realize that there is nothing other than an authoritarian MAGA movement in the Republican Party. And come next November, those members of Congress, a large number of them are going to lose their seats over this.
Yes, yes, and yes. I think that's really the thesis of this. That's the point of this particular video, at least. There's only scared MAGA, and then there's open MAGA. That's it. The Republican Party has no moderates. Now, I want to play some additional clips here, including one from Ian Sams, who's a White House spokesperson, which addresses the idea that Biden is stonewalling.
Well, there's a process you're supposed to follow in congressional oversight, and these guys just haven't followed it. They've blazed right through. We've offered over and over and over again throughout this Congress to meet with them, to talk with them, to hear about any legitimate informational needs that they may have. And time again, they've ghosted us. They don't respond to questions that we have for them. They don't reach out to have meetings. So they've just blazed through this process. And there's a reason why. The reason why is that this is a preordained outcome. Don't forget, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who right now is probably the most powerful member of the House Republican Conference, introduced articles of impeachment on day one of Joe Biden's presidency, before he could even be the president, do anything. They've decided from the moment that he took office that they were going to impeach him, and this is a natural continuation of that process. And now what they've done is wasted millions and millions of taxpayer dollars on a fishing expedition trying to drum up an excuse for it.
So according to the White House, they haven't stonewalled. They've tried to reach out in good faith, and there's actual evidence to support it. So the House Oversight Committee Democrats, so led by Jamie Raskin, the Democrats on the committee, Republicans can't claim that the Biden-Harris administration has obstructed their sham impeachment drive of President Biden. It's just not true. If they want to see what obstruction looks like, they should consult Trump's scandalous response to Congress. Compare for yourself. So this is Trump's response to an impeachment inquiry in 2019. It concludes, President Trump cannot permit his administration to participate in this partisan inquiry under these circumstances. In contrast, we have what Joe Biden wrote in response to the impeachment inquiry before it was formalized yesterday. So this was without the benefit of a full House vote. Nonetheless, we believe in engaging in good faith is critical to avoid a constitutional conflict, and we propose a meeting with your staff to start this important process. Which administration was more cooperative? Even if you believe that the Trump impeachments were partisan, Biden cooperated more, objectively so. As a matter of fact, James Comer and Jim Jordan have bragged on the record of getting literally, quote, 100%, quote, of their subpoena requests and the documents they've insisted on, hundreds of thousands of pages. And yet now they're simultaneously saying, well, actually, no, we didn't get anything. Biden is stonewalling. What's the objective? Well, we hear it from other Republican lawmakers very clearly. They're not even trying to hide it.
Do you think that going down these impeachment routes could be a problem politically?
No, I don't. In fact, I think if we don't go down these impeachment routes, a huge part of America is going to just say, we're not supporting Republicans anymore.
That seems pretty transparent. If you don't try to impeach Biden, the MAGA base will stop voting for you. That was Mark Green, a Republican representative. What about Troy Nehls?
Representatives, what are you hoping to gain from an impeachment inquiry?
All I can see is Donald J. Trump 2024, baby.
Seems pretty transparent, too. This is the same guy who went on the record like within the past week and said that the whole goal of the impeachment is to, quote, give Donald Trump more ammunition, end quote, for 2024. So to whatever extent, if you're watching and you're a conservative, you think, well, the Trump impeachments, they were political. This is infinitely more so, and Biden has been much more cooperative, once again proving the moral superiority of Joe Biden over Donald Trump, because even he has more patience and tolerance for this nonsense than Donald Trump ever did. And that's, of course, granting the premise, which I'm not obligated to do, because the impeachments into Trump were infinitely more substantive than what we have here. And if you don't believe me, listen to some swing voters from New Hampshire.
Support an impeachment inquiry to look into what's going on financially among the Bidens? None of you.
Where are the facts and where are the evidence? I really largely think that a lot of the talk about impeachment inquiries and corruptness of the Bidens is political posturing, and it's noise.
It's exactly what it is. So I don't want to drag this out because I'm sure, again, the impeachment inquiry is ongoing. There's still actually more content for videos that we have to talk about. Honestly, there could be a gazillion videos, but I would just lose my mind. So suffice it to say this. The impeachment inquiry is formalized. It will open up new avenues of investigative and judicial authority with the House of Representatives as far as the Republicans are concerned. They say the alleged moderates who all voted for it, despite their misgivings, despite their open admission that there is no evidence, they say, listen, this is just an inquiry. An impeachment is separate. Just because you vote for an inquiry doesn't mean you're going to vote for impeachment. Well, we have no reason to believe them. We have absolutely no reason whatsoever to assume that if a vote comes for impeachment, that they won't fall in line, as they always have again and again and again, despite their personal misgivings. I'll also say there are 18 Republicans living in districts or representing districts representing districts that also voted for Joe Biden. These are swing district Republicans. We need to make them pay electorally in November, if nothing else. Those 18 need to be out of a job. This is absolutely just a dereliction of duty on their part. And since they did the wrong thing for partisan reasons, we should do the right thing for patriotic reasons and make them lose their seats. The other thing I'll say is that Mark Elias is right. And I've said it before in previous videos, and I guess I've gotten away from saying it now because it is helpful sometimes to distinguish the Don Bacons from the Marjorie Taylor Greenes. But in the end, I think Mark Elias is right. There's open MAGA and there's scared MAGA. There is no moderate, and no moderate strain whatsoever in the Republican Party, and they demonstrated it with this vote. And with that in mind, we should be clear-eyed for the next 11 months. We've basically got a year. We need to understand, whether we like it or not, elected Republicans in this country are the political enemy. They're no longer the political opposition. Their goals and ours are diametrically opposed. They do not care about this country. They don't care about the future of this country. They care about winning. And even if it's winning in favor of Donald Trump, I guarantee you, people like Don Bacon and others, they despise Donald Trump. But in the end, we've seen it time and time again. Republicans fold. They're a collection of invertebrate. They're jellyfish. They have no spine whatsoever. They will always put power over principle, and we need to be clear-eyed about that. They are the enemy in politics. And when it comes to elections, we need to treat it that way. We need to treat them that way. Don't vote for them. Don't tolerate them. Make sure in every opportunity and every chance we get, we vote blue no matter who. There's no room in electoral politics in 2023 for this variant of the Republican Party. And we need to try to make that happen when we head to the ballot box next year. Let me know what you think in the comments.